How's it going, guys, and welcome to today's video. Things have quieted down a lot out here in the hayfield. As you can see, we got everything stacked, and fortunately we got it done, I want to say ahead of the rain, but to be more accurate, it was kind of during the rain. It didn't rain on it enough to hurt it, but there's another storm rolling in here on Sunday, and that looks like it might actually have some measurable rain. So before we talk about yields and how everything went out here, I need to get this stack covered. That's what we're doing today on Farmer Tyler Ranch. The big stack down there is the retail hay that I'll be selling to horse people. So I made sure that I got that covered with the tarp. In fact, I was tarping while the harrow beds were picking up bales out here. So because of that, unfortunately, I didn't get to film those guys this year. But this stack here is the cow hay, and for the little light sprinkle that we got the other day, I didn't feel that this really needed to be tarped. But with the bigger storm coming, thinking I might be mad at myself if I don't go ahead and tarp it. As you can see right now, it's not windy at all, and this is so weird to put tarps on when it's not windy, because usually you wait until the last minute until you know that the storm's coming to put the tarp on, and you're out there doing that in miserable weather like we were the other day. That tarp was whipping so hard I wondered if it might knock me off the top of the stack. Fortunately, it did not. So this is going to kind of be a treat for me. In fact, I feel like it's going to be so easy that I don't even have anybody helping me out here today. I think I can do this by myself. I always enjoy the view at sunset on top of the haystack. Just kind of give you guys a peek at what I'm looking at. I don't know why. We're not that much higher up. I mean, what is this? 20 feet, if that. But this perspective that you get up here is really cool. I don't know, it's kind of neat to just sit back for a minute and take it in. But we are losing daylight, so I can't enjoy this too long. I got to get to work. Before I can spread this tarp out, something that I have started doing the last couple of years, and I really believe in it, is I will take a few of these bales off of the top and sort of make a ridge line out of bales so that the water sheets off of the side and doesn't just pool up on the top of the tarp. Because what can happen is, if you have gaps between your stacks like that, or that, or that to some extent is, yeah, that'd be big enough to cause problems. What can happen is the water will all pool up there in the tarp, and then when you go to pull the tarp off, either one of two things can happen. Either all the water is going to dump in between the stacks and get all over your bales and probably mold them, or you'll do what I did a couple years ago and think that, you know, you're a superhero and you're going to lift all that water out of there. Well, it can be done, but I don't recommend it. This is a lot easier. The other thing, while I'm walking around up here, I want to make darn sure that I don't accidentally step in one of those crevices, because Well, that one I wouldn't go all the way to the ground, but that one I would. And that doesn't sound fun. So I'm gonna have to be careful when I'm on this end of the stack. I think that's the only one that I can actually fall into. So just try to stay away from it and aware of it. Hopefully it won't be a problem. Well, that is what I am going to refer to as my ridge line. You guys can see it's really easy to do. Only takes a couple of seconds, and it will save me a lot of headaches later on when I'm taking this tarp off. So now that I got my ridge line set up, there's really nothing left to do but roll this tarp out and probably fight with it for the next hour getting it in place. So I've been looking forward to this all day. Let's get started. You wouldn't know it by looking at it, but these tarps are actually really heavy, and whoever rolled this up did a pretty bad job. So this is gonna be a fight. We're getting there slowly. I love this job. Now I have to walk to the other end of the stack and climb down the ladder, and as the tarp gets more and more spread out here, this gets more and more treacherous because, as you can see, when I walk through here, I can't really see where I'm putting my feet, so I got to really remember where those big holes are. Everywhere where I've moved the bale or picked a bale up and made a hole, I got to try to remember that so I don't step through the tarp. That's why I usually kind of consciously make myself a pathway back to the ladder so that when I do have to walk over the tarp, I kind of know where to put my feet. Kind of a long way down. I sure wouldn't want to fall. Let's see where I'm going now, though. All right, now that I got the tarp more or less spread out here on the stack, I need to come around on this side and sort of try to set my where I want the edge of the tarp to be on the stack. So the way I'll do that is just sort of look at the bales and try to make sure that it's even all the way across, and I'll tie these twines to length so that when I go on the other side I can really pull down on the tarp and know that I'm stretching everything out, getting all the wrinkles out, and I can tie it tight on that side. The fun part about doing this is trying to get the twine from the tarp under the twine from the bale. By the time I get this tarp on here, this finger is going to be pretty raw from doing that. Right here, I think the tarp is a little bit low, so I'm going to tie this one loose so that when I cinch it down on the other side, hopefully it'll kind of straighten it out. It is hard to tie these knots when everything's loose. This is not a new tarp, and I'm definitely seeing that as I tie it down. And I think last year the wind got a hold of this one and did some damage. So as you can see, this edge here is all torn, and I don't know that there's any eyelets there to tie twine into. So I'm gonna try to finish with the rest of the tarp first, and then I'll come back to this area, and I might be able to just kind of bunch up that corner and tie it down somehow. I'll just figure something out. Well, this tarp is almost in place, and we are really rapidly running out of daylight. I don't know how the camera is gonna do in this low light. But before we get too dark out here and I have to quit filming, I want to talk a little bit about the yield and just about kind of how things went out here. As some of you know, when you look at this field from overhead, it just looks like one big field, but it actually has two different landowners. And I kind of think of this as two fields, but I farm it as one field. This field right here is roughly 15, maybe 16 acres. I'm not really sure. I haven't mapped it out yet. But when I cut it and when I baled it as well, I thought that the yield out here was going to be a lot better. This other half of the field is somewhere around 20 acres. It might be more like 18. I'm not really sure where exactly the property line is. It might go to the center of the levee. It might go to the center of the river for all I know. So I always refer to this one as 20 and the other one as 15. Despite my initial impressions when cutting and baling, these fields actually both yielded almost identical. I figured that I got just about one stack, which is 88 bales per acre. Calculating yield on 88 bales per acre, I mean, sure, it's not impossible, but it's a lot easier to work with a round number. So let's just say 90 bales per acre. Each one of these bales weighs somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 pounds, so it takes 20 of these bales to make 1 ton. So if we do some simple math, we can calculate that each acre in this field produced 4.5 tons of feed. That is the second best yield that I've had out here. The first best was, no surprise, the first year that I farmed it, and that was about 100 bales or 5 tons per acre. So I am very pleased with this. This winter we didn't have a ton of rain, and a lot of guys with forage hay fields saw reduced yields because of that. I'm really lucky to be over here near the river on really good ground, and fortunately for me, the lack of water really didn't hurt things too bad. It's almost like it helped things. This stack of 16 blocks is going to go back to the ranch to feed the cows, and I will need 3 more blocks to get me through the year, so I'll just take that out of the retail hay stack. I better get back to putting this tarp on before it gets too dark, so thanks for hanging out in the field with me today, guys, and I hope I'll see you again on Farmer Tyler Ranch.